Good evening and welcome everyone to another edition of Go Fog Friday Nights, or GF Friday Nights as we call it. And thanks everyone for waiting patiently. We are a smidgen late, and there's a smidgen of late Dino in this cocktail tonight. So just throw you under the bus first and foremost. Good to see you, mate.
Thanks for having me. It is my fault though.
It's definitely your fault. Of course, we weren't just talking about stuff and losing track of time. Back again, as ever, is the Scottish Whale, McBride Ace. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, we were talking about stuff and lost track of time. That's completely unfair to throw that on Lardino there just to defend them. But yeah, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, and when you're talking about going off topic and just kind of running into a different direction, it definitely wouldn't have been because of Classic the Pen Fizz. So there you go.
How we doing?
The cocktail is assembled. There you go. Thanks for joining us, guys. Good to see you all.
I was roped into it, to be fair. So,
like,
the fact that you're responding like that tells the whole story without even saying a word, right? Yeah. Led said, "Am I going to see you tonight?" I said, "I didn't realise you was in town." And then he said, "No, obviously he's here." And so I thought, yeah, I'll pop in. No Arsenal tonight, but there is a massive game on today. And I'm sure, actually, McBride, you've probably got a stack for yourself, haven't you? The Real Madrid stack is active this evening.
Yeah, and champion as well, because there's no La Liga open, but
so
I do have a reasonable champion.
Tell me the story. How is it that champion is open, but is it challenger that's not? Even though Porto, Sporting, Benfica are playing, like Galatasaray are playing, like there's so many challenger teams that are playing, but they didn't open it.
I think when they created the rules, you needed 10 licensed teams to open the cash comps in the divisions. So there is like Burnley, Porto, Benfica, Sporting, Galatasaray and Fenerbahce, but there's not enough to make the quota of 10. So basically, challenger doesn't open.
What about the contender though? Because the contender's open as well, but from what I saw, it's only Celtic and Rangers that are.
Well, it is, but the rest of the SPFL's on, so there's
they're all of the
10 licensed teams. So all the other Diddy teams in Scotland are playing, and it's open. But because of the problem is that in Turkey they took away the license for the rest of the leagues, so it's only the top 4 in Turkey, I think, who have actually licensed at the moment, which means that it causes some of these issues. I mean, it doesn't really affect me as much, but I thought that they should. I think they should have covered that either under some sort of special or just opened it with reduced cash, because you've got all like you've just added Burnley to the platform, and it's a big weekend where you've got all these different challenger games, and there's no divisions, no cash comp, no challenger whatsoever opened. So it's an interesting one, maybe just a wee anomaly in the rules.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, because usually, like, if licensed teams are playing, it's normally against each other, whereas like Sporting are playing like Victoria Guimarães or whatever, so on and so forth. And because Turkey's been ditched, that's a easy kind of overlooked detail and all that, I suppose, isn't it? Because technically, like Göztepe and Kasımpaşa and all the rest of it aren't licensed anymore, so it's just the big ones in Turkey. So I never really thought of it like that. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together with it until I was going through the deadline show and seeing, like, when you went into challenge, you're like, oh no, there's actually like stacks everywhere potentially, but
yeah, they're all
no way to play them
now. Yeah. ruining everyone's fun, really.
Quinny, can I have my rant about next game week? So, like, I don't understand. So, okay, there's that scenario, but what I don't understand for next game week is, so next midweek you've got 6 licensed SPFL teams and 2 non-licensed contender teams, and instead of opening contender, Sorare have opened All-Star, and there's no cash. So the consequence of that is Celtic guys have got Celtic stacks, Rangers stacks, Dundee United stacks, etc. There's only 2 entries per scarcity, so you're going down from 6 to 2, and there's no cash whatsoever. But my main point with that is, like, why would you open All-Star when there's only 8 contender teams playing? Like, would it not have been better just to actually run the divisions and just reduce the cash? So, like, you don't have to pay out what was being paid out for this game week or whatever, but it's the only games that are on. It's the only there's no. Why would you run All-Star when there's only one region running? So that's my rant over. That's why I said that into it.
I can get behind it. I'm quite biased, but
I know.
with you. I think it's the lack of in-season element is the problem, isn't it? Because I think like these teams are like cup replay or delayed matches because maybe teams played in the cup or whatever. So it is like a match day, and Nep, I think this is kind of echoing what you were talking about last week with Arsenal and that kind of island game week.
I will say though, what a saviour, because the fact that we conceded, Kai Havertz was out because of the bug, Odegaard dropped a stinker, Saka's not here anyway. Like, I honestly, I was grateful that it was in some rando all-star tournament, because I was like, yeah, like I would have got relegated. yeah. I was actually afterwards, I was like, no, we dodged the bullet there. That was all right.
So it's kind of it's a problem. It's a hard fix, but isn't it? It's just the lack of money. The lack of entries is going to hurt me because I've just fleshed everything out. So I've got like max entries everywhere, and it's a tough one.
What about you, Led? What's your game week saying?
I'm already tilting because I have Kamavinga captain somewhere.
Benched, right? Which is really surprising given their defensive frailties.
He didn't start.
Like, I'm like a Kamavinga stan. And so it's like the fact that he's not like easily one of the first names on the team sheet every game is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And to sit in this one for like Danny Ceballos or whoever started, like, what are we doing? I know they play 2 matches next week, but like those seemed like matches for Danny Ceballos.
I've watched a lot of Real Madrid now, Laird, because I bought the cards. But like honestly, I think I can't believe like you would leave him out. In fact, I would go as far as saying that when he plays at left back, he's the best left back at Real Madrid. Like, he's better than Mendy, he's better than Fran Garcia, and obviously maybe doesn't want to play him at left back. But like, how you can't find a place for him in the teams, like, is bonkers to me.
Mm-hmm. For me, Fran Garcia is like Alvaro Morata. Like, he is definitely there because of money laundering. Like, that man does not deserve to be playing for Real Madrid, Like, you look at Morata or Choupo-Moting, right? Choupo-Moting is one of the worst football players you've ever seen that's played at the best clubs on earth consistently. He is there for money laundering. That's Fran Garcia for me. When I watch him play, even before he went there, because I won his limited card when he was at, Rayo Vallecano or whatever. And I was like, oh, he's like an all right scorer. Then he's getting a transfer to Real Madrid. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, this has to be a mistake. There must be a different Fran Garcia. It was the same Fran Garcia. I was blown away. I was mesmerized. So I started like looking at his like history on like transfer market and stuff, and like watch some compilations about him. I'm like, this guy is not a good football player. I don't know why he's going to Real Madrid. Yeah. Although, to be fair, they've had Ferland Mendy there for the last 7 years, and he's pretty garbage as well. So,
Yeah. I think I like about Mendy, but he's a tank. He's not that great, but he's a bit of a unit.
He's got an ultimate team. That's what works, isn't it? Yeah. He's always one of the most overpowered players on FIFA. He is.
Surely Choupo-Moting was the only player ever to go from Stoke to PSG, right?
So not Bayern.
I want to say maybe like Bojan. Did Bojan ever play for Stoke?
Yeah,
he definitely played at Stoke. Did he go to Barca after that?
Yeah, he went somewhere. Yeah.
I think he went on loan. Did they not go on loan to Stoke from Barca or something? It's a weird one.
Oh, maybe it was that way.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. They're trying to sign Trent and Alphonso Davies. I mean, like Real Madrid are already pretty scary, obviously, in terms of options they've got. But if they sort out that defence, like, they look at Liverpool as well. Like, why are Real Madrid not trying to sign Virgil? Like,
yeah,
crying out for a centre half. Like, just, you don't even need to pay a transfer fee. Just go and give him a couple of years contract, sign on fee.
Yeah.
One of the best defenders, top 3 defenders in the world, just walks in. So Liverpool have left themselves in a proper difficult position, having those 3 top stars, like, just basically getting out of contract.
I think they're being kind of like saved by the fact that they're playing so well, though, because now, at the very least, you would expect those 3 players to be like, we will sign a deal, but just so that you can get a massive payout for when we move, rather than like, letting us go for free. But yeah, I think the La Liga specifically is crying out for a big defender. There are no prominent scorers. Like, Inigo Martinez is one of the top scorers. Like, I bought Oscar Mingueza way early in the season because he was set piece taker for Celta Vigo at the time, which I think he's lost now. And he's diabolical. Like, he's just an awful scorer. And it's like, when you look at the top defenders in La Liga, it's like the fourth defender is like Starfelt that used to play for Celtic, and it's
Yeah.
like Jesus
Top.
Christ, yeah, the quality is so bad that Trent would just go and he would just be the single best scoring defender there without any shadow of a doubt.
I think I saw earlier today. Let me see if I can find it. I thought it maybe was on Who Scored that no defender in La Liga has been dribbled past more than Inigo Martinez this year.
Oh, is that right? And look at him
I'm
though; he's
almost
up at number
certain about
one. Look at that.
Yeah.
What a guy. Look at those names. Look at that Krejci guy. Girona are awful, and he is awful, and he gets dropped all the time because he's awful, and yet he's fourth in the top scoring list. Oh, my days.
I just see two guys from my Ren collection on that list.
Was that Bade? He's pretty good as a look Bade. He's actually a really quality player, to be fair. Who else is there from Ren? Lejeune.
Agard.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
at West Ham, wasn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much going on here, is there?
No, it's bad.
It's really bad.
That's
Yeah,
my
actually-
favourite guy in 17th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gutierrez. Actually, when I put him in champion this weekend, I put Andy Robertson in with the Real Madrid stack. So there you go. I was just like, I'm just going to run somebody else. Like,
So do you know what I did today? I looked at the prices of like buying maybe Rudiger. He was like £80 in season. And I thought, no, do you know what? Let me go for like a Premier League defender in champion. So I bought Dan Burn from Newcastle for like 25 quid. And I thought, like, even right now, like I've got a full Real Madrid limited stack. And before the game's kicked off, I'm 8 points behind first place. And it's like, I obviously just don't have the XP in collection to beat whoever's above me. I'm like 14th before it's even kicked off. And I thought, Rudiger's just a terrible scorer. This is a prime example of like, get a differential for this. Like, get someone in that defensive role that has potential to pop off. I do like Marcos Alonso a lot. He was good at Chelsea anyway. And La Liga is really like up his street. I think he will generally become like one of the best scoring defenders in the league.
I almost bought him recently.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. He's just been very hit and miss at the moment, but his AA is really good, and he's playing in a 3-back or a 5-back as a left centre back, which really helps the way he plays the game. So I think he'll be very, very good as the season goes on.
He's taking corners too.
Is he actually?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
For a big guy.
Barca just don't like keep clean sheets. So like they dominate the ball, but they don't keep clean sheets. So that's been an issue for them.
They've got obviously Kobasi is 17. Like you kind of expect it from him, but Alejandro Balde at left back. I can't remember who it was from Barcelona. It was one of the. It might have been Lewandowski. Was in the media recently saying he is going to be the best fullback in the world, and I'm like, you play with him. Have you seen him play? Like he's just not that good, and he's already like. In today's world, like quite old, isn't he? He's 21 years old. Like that is young for a football player. Like back when we were all a lot younger, a 21-year-old wouldn't even be breaking into the first team, let alone be considered like a world-class player or anything. But by this day and age, you'd think a 21-year-old would already have to be really showing themselves to be like considered ever like a potential best player.
They can run quick though.
Yeah, he's fast. Yeah.
He's not so good for Sorare scoring. I suppose, like Barcelona's point of view, Koundé was the one that scored pretty well, and I think Ronald Araujo was pretty good as well. But then he get a bad injury, so he was a kind of AA guy at the Barcelona defence, but they just don't keep any clean sheets. And obviously Ter Stegen went out and everything, so it's just Rafinha that's been a huge issue. He's just been absolutely insane. That guy, like unbelievable. Champions League, La Liga, the whole shebang, playing for Brazil and everything, he's been really good. So
he's that perfect forward that just does so much stuff and always brings a decisive with him. It's just
the other game week when he didn't score a goal or get an assist, he got a goal line clearance.
Loves it, man.
Yeah, he's just a big player. He's just a good player.
Aye.
Yeah.
I was scratching around looking at like transfers and everything over the Christmas period especially, and I had a wee thing I thought would be interesting to bring up tonight. I went so I seen Assane Diao was making the move from Betis to Como to play in Serie A, and that's a wee guy that, like you're talking about, watching players and seeing their crap. This is a player I'd seen by accident and always kind of fancied, like, oh, this guy's actually a bit of a player, and might do something. And I've bought some guys recently, like when I've seen transfers or someone sends me a rumour. But when I went and seen this guy's price in season, it was for the rare, it was £14. And I thought, I would have paid 30 for that. So
you
I
got
bought
two of them?
Yeah. And I thought, I'm so happy with myself because now I can guilt-free sell one later on. And yeah, that's a wee bit of an unused kind of move, as it were, for me, certainly, anyway.
His scores for Betis aren't even bad.
Yeah, they're not.
He doesn't play very often. A lot of sub minutes in, but he's got some like decisive actions in there. Like Betis are a weird team, aren't they? Like ever since Fekir got his like long-term injury about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago now, they just haven't performed. I don't even know if Fekir still plays for them or if he moved on, but
he went
in Saudi, I think, isn't he?
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Even Isco got injured though, so he was there and he got injured too.
Yeah.
So,
but and then they got Lo Celso, right? And he's actually smashing it there. But then it's like when Isco comes back, how do you play them both? Like
he gets hurt a lot too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yeah, that's how you play them all, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. Laird, I've done something controversial. You want to hear it?
You? No.
Yeah, I've done something controversial. My last 3 buys are classic super rares.
So I saw the River Plate one.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, Quinny talked me into that. It was his fault. So Martinez quarter, he talked me into that. And then Kieran Tierney's coming back to Celtic apparently. So
I saw that one, yeah.
Makes sense. And I bought Joe Ian Wu because he's just like the best, like I think he's one of the best contender goalkeepers, full stop, like behind Schmeichel. And I was waiting on his price coming down. I got that wee alert through from Sorare data. There you go. You're going to spend some money on this. Like, I'm under the threshold. And I went in, and the guy was only wanting Ethereum, and I had Ethereum stored up from a previous game week, and I was like, I'm just going to buy him. So there we go. So I bought a couple of super rares. So I better shut my mouth on Twitter now.
Why do it?
Well, Kieran Tierney is because coming to Celtic.
Yeah, that one I get. That one I get.
Martinez quarter and Joe Ian Wu. Well, I mean, you're playing super rare, even if you're playing in season, you can run 2 out of season cards. So there's that element. I've been wanting Joe Ian Wu for ages, but he's been at least like £1,000 for ages. Yeah, so he's been really, really expensive. And the other thing I've noticed, like with like Quinny, you've got on this strategy as well. Like when you get to super rare level, like a lot of the guys who've been playing against me when I've been playing Celtic stacks have been running like Canales, Barco, guys who are smashing it in certain leagues, but they might have an in-season or an out-season option. Berardi is our one as well. So I've been kind of like, Martinez quarter was 120 quid. Like, so like if he smashes it up at River or whatever, then I can use him with some Celtic cards, but also I can use them over the summer. So, and actually, I know I slag off super sometimes, but like the problem, sometimes the problem with divisions is if you get into Division 2 or whatever in super rare, then you can't win anything that reasonable and there's no cash or whatever. So it's quite poor if you get relegated. But what I have noticed a lot recently is that because there's so many in-season rares and everything being sold quite quickly, because you've got this front ending of the early access and everything. Rare's really quite competitive as well, even in season. But in the last couple of weeks, like I've just won some stuff just because I've got Celtic cards, if you know what I mean. So you can see the scarcities kicking in a bit there because it's like, well, nobody's really even running Ranger stacks in some of the game weeks and things. So yeah, I think I'm going to be buying some more super rares.
Did you do well? The game week just finished in season with like Celtic stack, because I finished I think 19th and won like 35 quid and a good box with about 260 points.
So is that the one that Celtic beat 3-0 by Rangers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You maybe you did this well. Yeah. No, that's where my split comes in nice. Like Danilo came off the bench to bag a goal, which was really delightful. And yeah, I had Schmeichel instead of Butland, which was nice. Internal leg bleeding. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a dead leg. You get a dead leg or something. Yeah, I mean, like I was only, but believe it or not, Celtic had beat 3-0. I was only 10 points off winning 200 quid in Division 1. But like Division 1 contenders quite funny because like I've got like 3 entries of that at the moment, and some of these game weeks there's only like 17 entries because there's a lot of like there's no Croatia and there's no you know, a lot of the contender stuff's on break. Salzburg, etc., all on break. So
they're all on break. Yeah.
So but yeah, I did kind of notice that scarcity's kicking in a bit, and I was thinking about doing a bit of MLS stuff over the summer, but I don't have a really good challenger gallery, so I thought if I'm going to spend a wee bit just now, then as well getting some good like contender goalkeepers and things, and just try to sort of hold that sort of position up there. So
it's weird with was it you, Quinny, that bought Robertson for 80 quid? Super rare. I heard you talking to like Laird the other day on the podcast with him, and I'm like, yeah, the Sir Andrews, and like the whole super rare thing, especially now that the MLS is coming back. Like, if the MLS gets its own competition, I've still got like a 1 of 10 super rare Denny Bwanga, and I've had 3 or 4 unsolicited offers for him recently, and I'm like, okay, whenever I get an offer for a player that I haven't got listed up, it just piques my interest. I'm like, what am I missing out on that somebody wants this card? But it got me like just looking at super rare in general. Like, I sold a lot of my Arsenal super rares to Tom C. He like bought like just basically all of them, and I look back now and I just think, would I have been better just keeping them? Like, I sold them for so cheap, and super rares right now, classic level specifically, are so cheap. And the fact that it's a 2-3 split in season versus classic, I'm almost gutted that I just didn't keep my like Martin Odegaard super rare and my Gabriel Martinelli super rare, my Gabriel Jesus super rare, because I'm like, fuck, if I just went and got a couple of in seasons and then maybe like a random in season that just has like, you know, like good high potential, but maybe just also like, you know, quite a low floor, maybe I'd be able to like farm a bit of cash out of those super rare lineups, because we're never going to be able to beat the Pranksies consistently. But at classic level, it's so cheap that even for the like special weeklies and stuff, you know, Gator Guy wins special weeklies quite regularly. So does Sean, PSU fans. He's always doing really well in special weeklies at super rare level because he's got the classic pieces that are just elite. And I'm like, shit, like maybe I should start getting back into super rare. I don't know. And I regret massively selling my Arsenal super rares, like massively.
I was quite surprised you sold the Arsenal ones. Like, I get the whole moving out and like, you've probably sold them for more than what you would have gotten like later on or whatever, or even the cost of acquisition today, maybe, you know, there's probably a margin there perhaps. But I was surprised just because it was like Arsenal. I thought if you maybe throw the rest of them out and kept the Arsenal, I don't know, maybe it would have been expected.
It was more about being able to like source funds for in season. Like I've put a lot of money into So Rare, as I'm sure we all have. Maybe not Laird. Like he was in so early, he probably put in about $5, and like now he's just living the high life.
Quinny was here before. Both of these guys were here before me. Get out of here.
Okay, so maybe all 3 of you guys, but like I've like I was after the Gary V boom, and I didn't even know Gary V would like got involved. I just happened to get involved at that point, and I've put a lot of money in. I've been burnt. And I put a lot more money in believing in the platform, and I've been burnt. And the third time I put a lot of money in and I got burnt. And I was like, I'm not doing it again. I'm just using what I've got. And that's why I sold the Arsenal cards to buy these in-season cards, because I thought the last 3 times they've made dramatic changes, I've reinvested and got fucked. I'm not doing it again. I'm just gonna. So I was like, where can I actually like generate funds? And you know, I sold like I made a lot of money off my super rare Odegaard because I got to use him in like All-Star Rare Pro or Champion Rare Pro for a while, and I got some really good rewards off of him. So I made a profit on him, and I made a profit on Gabriel Magalhaes, and I made a profit on a few other guys, which was nice. But it was good to like release that kind of equity to be able to buy who I bought at the time, which was like Bukayo Saka and David Raya and players like that, which have then actually yielded me like insane money. And I actually like somewhat, don't tell Sean this because he won't be able to walk through doors. His ego will be so big. But like you guys did one show, Laird, you and Sean, where he was like, if the Panthers doesn't have like a Bukayo Saka rare by the end of this week, like I'll be shocked. And I was like, for him to just say that in the first place, I was like, shit, he knows Bukayo Saka's going to be sick. Like I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll buy them. And you know, at that stage of the season, everyone was talking about how cheap these in-season cards were. And I will still stand by the fact that even the stars, like, they're so cheap. They're so affordable. Like, it's unreal how cheap they are. So I was like, I need to get some equity instantly to be able to get these Arsenal players, because, you know, last season and the back end of the season before, Arsenal were just like dominating teams, smashing teams away. And then this season, okay, now we've got injuries. Now we're leaking goals. Like now we're losing games. I'm like, for fuck's sake, man. Like after I've like put all my eggs in one basket, it's ruined me. But fortunately, I won Salah actually. I won Division 2 in Classic, and my star was Salah. I couldn't believe it. Because I'm like, does Sorare not watch football? Like, this man is like the best player on the planet. Like, I thought I was going to get someone from the bottom of the prize pool when I got him. But because I already had Alisson and Trent, I was like, this is delightful. Like, I've now got 3 Liverpool pieces and they're absolutely destroying everyone. So it was like, it worked out really well from selling those Arsenal Super Rares because of what I have ended up getting because of it. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, like, when you're talking there, Fridays about like the Tierney Super Rares and stuff, I had 2 Tierney Super Rares that I picked up for like 50 quid and 70 quid, and I sold them both. And I'm like, I would like to have kept them now, because now that he's moving to Celtic, either I could have sold him for a bit more of a premium, or I could have used him if I kept some Super Rare cards. Like, yeah, it's a bit annoying.
There's no way you would have yielded 10% of what you have from the rares if you had kept those Super Rares.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Unless you spent like $2,000 and like bought like actual in-season, like good, like in-season EPL Super Rares to go with them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you're going one way or the other. And like, I can see why you've done it, because like, I never really went into in-season EPL either. Like, I just kind of avoided that, but kind of get into this sort of strategy now where like I'm just trying to corner the market a bit in terms of contender, but like that's been helped. But like Kasper Schmeichel said, like 13 or 14 clean sheets in the league. So that's maybe it's a wee bit unsustainable, but also it's helped sort of massively. But just a dominant team that doesn't really happen that much. Even PSV are brilliant, but PSV went through a spell, I think, where they were still actually conceding goals, whereas Celtic were scoring and not conceding. So a bit of luck there as well, but yeah, take it when it comes.
Yeah, I think the jeopardy with Celtic is goalkeeper and defensively are pretty solid, but the midfield and forwards, it's impossible to know who's going to play, isn't it?
Yeah, kinda. It's more like who's going to get the points. That's the hard bit. You know what I mean? It's take your turn. It's take your turn. Somebody different every week, which is why the Barcos and the Berardis and Lucas Martinez Quatra, who is going to be the new Boscagli. Why these guys are needed.
I know you're both Celtic fans, but I'm telling you, Danilo is going to be the best forward in the Scottish League without any shadow of doubt. He's already proven it now that he's back. He is like, that man is like significantly better than the league that he's playing in. It's ridiculous. I don't even know why he went there.
Well, I can see it. I think me and McBride were, quite open when Cherny went there. They're like, some of these guys, like they should rip the league. Like all things to one side, like Cherny, Danilo, one or two of those other guys, like playing against St Johnstone, St Mirren, and all that kind of stuff. They should score SO5 points for fun. So yeah, definitely from a Sorare perspective, I think like Danilo is a card that could start hitting.
Isn't he like,
scored twice against us in a week or 9 days?
He scored a cup, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it Kuhn for you guys? It's like really like setting the world on fire.
Aye, new Jota. Yeah. SO5 wise anyway.
Him. Do you know it came out like about 3 months ago? There's actually like evidenced like legitimately that when he went to Saudi, they thought they were buying the Liverpool Jota. Like it's like they genuinely just hadn't researched it properly and they bought the wrong Jota. How wild is that? Like,
I love that.
It blows my mind. There were some like internal documents leaked and stuff. And then it turns out that the wrong Jota had been purchased. And that's why it got like released like really quickly and didn't even get registered like at the start of the season and stuff. I find that to be absolutely hilarious. Like,
that's bro.
Yeah.
Celtic get paid up front for it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So Celtic don't care,
yeah. That was the thing as well. I think he got like a team of the week or team of the season card or something, and that was the other story. So they basically they had seen that and like just thought he was some sort of superstar guy. And fucking was like, because remember like when they were doing like their like announcement videos for people, like they were making it look like video gaming and stuff like that. So it was almost as if like somebody was sitting over there going, yes, we have $1 billion to spend. Who was signing? Jota. Yes, that guy Jota. I've heard of him. Let's fucking sign him. like, you know, like, yeah, famous Glasgow Celtic. They play in the same league as Liverpool, man. It's the UK. Like, oh my God.
I mean, the vicinity, you must be so close to Liverpool anyway. It's like, yeah, just put them on the map. They're like basically next to each other. Like, that's the guy.
Mad.
I didn't know that was confirmed. That's incredible. That will be that's an urban myth if ever in a couple of years, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
So we can't be bigging up the Celtic transfer model so much now, Quinny. Can we? Like, there's basically just get 26 million, but and also it's a knock-on effect to transfers because like when Celtic sold Matt O'Reilly, that look we got 26 million for Jota, and this guy's like, you want to play him in the EPL? Like, this guy's like really good and he's younger and. Then we get 30 for him, so we kind of benchmarked him a bit as well. Anyway, Quinny, I'm going to head off because I want to see the walk-on for the darts, and it's shite excuse to part with
Enjoy.
a stream, but I need a pee, I need a drink, and I want to watch the darts walk-on. So it's been
Love
good. Cheers all again. See you later.
Take care, mate.
Cheers.
Hail. On the darts.
The Matt O'Reilly, he's actually done really well, hasn't he? After his injury, he got long-term injury first game, and then he's done really solid. After
He's been okay.
Yeah,
he scored the winner against City off the bench, and he's in my team this week against your mob. But don't know how good he'll do. He could do it right.
I think when it comes to like defensive midfielders, so long as like obviously it's nice if they get DAs. Like one of the things with Kochu is like he really needs that decisive to like push him up to the 100 points. But players like Matt O'Reilly, he can easily pick up 70, 80 points just from playing the game. Like if he's so good physically, like, you know, the amount of double doubles or triple doubles he might be able to pick up, the amount of like just interception, like you see sometimes, like I can't remember who it was in the Premier League the other day, and I clicked on them. I was like, how the hell have they got that many points? They had like 9 tackles. I'm like, teams don't get 9 tackles in a game. Like this one guy has got 9 tackles. And it's an anomaly for sure. But Matt O'Reilly's, like against Arsenal, for example, it's exactly the sort of game where he could get 6 or 7 interceptions, no problem at all, just standing on the edge of that box, constantly having to deal with wave after wave of pressure.
Yeah. I never caught the massive AA. But I think O'Reilly's good. I think he'll do well in the Prem for sure. And I think like Caicedo's really highlighted that element that you've spoke about to me. Like he is pure AA, and like you're like, oh, he can't keep that up. But when you actually look at his record, it's like, well, why can't he? Like, you know, he does it everywhere against anyone, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that way about Tchouameni a wee bit. Like Tchouameni started, I thought he was quite solid for like 30 AA, but it's obviously different times at the moment.
It's different for him again, depending on where he plays. Like if he plays in the midfield, he gets at AA. If he plays in the back line, he just doesn't. Like and he's been farmed to centre back more than he hasn't. And it's one of those things where it's like, if he had a defender card, you'd be interested in it because he's probably one of the premium defenders. Like I don't actually know what his defender scores are compared to his. Yeah. Sorare has got some really cool features actually.
We have the technology.
Do you know what? His defender scores aren't. Actually, they are. During that period before he got injured most recently, his defender scores were significantly better than his midfielder scores. That kind of literally before the 3 months that you're looking at is where it's like compared to a midfielder, like yes, it's a big difference, and that comes from not from the clean sheets because Real Madrid don't really keep like a super amount, but definitely from the AA is definitely up there.
Yeah, 69.
Yeah. But that's at centre mid, isn't it? Because he gets 10 bonus points there, even though he's playing in centre mid. But he also gets like the attempted assists at 3 points instead of 2 points and whatnot. But yeah, he's definitely the sort of player where if he was if he had a defender card, he'd probably be the best La Liga defender card on Sorare. And it's interesting, isn't it?
Doesn't say much.
No, it doesn't. To be fair, but it's interesting, like for Sorare, like to give out like these cards where we've got like the special skins and then the special editions of like the freeze cards and stuff. Why aren't they like more on the ball of like, all right, this guy's playing defender now, let's give them some defender cards, like because it happens a lot with a lot of players. Just
a wee temporary issue, you know, and then while he's playing there, if it's like a little, he gets an L5 at centre back.
Yeah, but Sorare, like they're in the business of making money. We've seen that with all these market ops that they've given recently and stuff. Surely they would sit there and look at someone like Tchouameni and be like, guys, this guy's playing centre back. Let's just release him at centre back for a few weeks. Like, people will be like, yeah, okay, that's a really good differential to have, because then when he goes back to centre mid, you can effectively field Tchouaméni, Bellingham, Mbappe, and Vinicius Jr. with Courtois. Who's not going to pay for that? I certainly would. Like, if they want to make money, make it happen. Like,
they do multi-positional cards for NBA and MLB.
Oh, did I actually? Yeah.
Really?
That's your answer. How about that?
Like,
interesting.
Surely they could just release a Rio Hatate forward midfielder defender card.
Just give him a goalkeeper as well. Why not? Just make it.
Yeah.
Complete the set. That is interesting. But the problem comes with the forward and midfielders, but because some of them are sketchy anyway to begin with. And then when's the crossover happen? Like, when's the guy now? Some of them are obviously in this when people can argue, but if you're to get into the weeds of it, that's a busy one, isn't it?
It was interesting for Saka in the first 2 years because he was set as a midfielder, apparently by Arsenal's request.
I heard that, yeah.
Why do they care? Why do Arsenal give a shit if he's a midfielder or forward in a fantasy football game? Like,
they have pretty specific rules on the MLB side. They have to play like a certain number of games at a position, and then they'll add it. But it's as simple as that. Play 15 games, you're a defender now.
Multi-position is the future, isn't it?
That could work. I was just thinking, wide midfielders when it comes to positional stuff are always just our wingers or guys that play in front threes. They can be the trouble of it all. But you're definitely right. It would sell cards for fun, that kind of thing. If it came out, like, because there's only going to be 3 of them, because then the number 1 centre back is going to be back in after his 3-month injury, and it's just so. The next 3 that come out are him.
Even for Arsenal, like, Kai Havertz has been a striker this season. Yeah, he still has midfielder cards being minted. It's like he just doesn't play in midfield. Like, sort it out. We're halfway through the season now. Give him a forward card would make my lineup building an insane amount easier, because otherwise my choices are Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, or Leandro Trossard, and they're all shit. I don't want to put them in the forward position. I really want to put Kai Havertz there instead.
I can just see, like, Tchouaméni being a tier 2, and then his defender card comes out and the price spikes, and all of a sudden he's a star. But to go back to the midfielder, and then we just start complaining about that. I have a soft spot for him. I've always liked him. Like, I always wanted to play a Madrid. It didn't even need to be a Madrid stack, but I wanted to play a lineup with Tchouaméni and Camavinga with Tchouaméni with his Monaco card and Camavinga with the Rennes card. And I just don't think the 2 of them are good enough, like, in a lineup.
Mbappe PSG and up front.
I was actually just about to look, has Mbappe got any Monaco cards as well, or was it too early?
No, but those would be sick.
Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah.
That would be fun. And then it's just defenders your problem for that kind of Liga and Real Madrid.
Well, not if Tchouaméni had some centre-back cards. That'd be like pretty good, wouldn't it? Or even
Yeah,
Camavinga had some defender cards as well.
He would be playing everywhere, wouldn't he? I was going to bring up with you, Laird, after listening to you earlier today. Like, I didn't realise you were going into Strasbourg as well, and I was going to have to bring this up when McBride was here, and Ned was chatting about Arsenal and stuff like that, because it's all quite team-centric. But you seem to be a very team stacker nowadays. You're more kind of gravitating towards a squad and building. Ish.
I end up stacking because of, it's not convenience. And like, I'm not building collections in order to stack them. Like the Strasbourg one was like, I want to have the most powerful Andre Santos card. And the only way for me to even catch up is to buy all of his teammates who don't play. And the collection bonus will work at it. That'll give me the advantage over. I looked yesterday because this is the first year that Santos has cards. So there's not that many of them. There's probably like 75 at this point. And going into this game week, I saw there are 19 that are more powerful than mine. And I haven't had mine that long. And so it's just like stuff like that like, I was talking to Gator Guy about this recently, and it's one of those things that just has really messed with my head in terms of like what we should be doing to make our lineups as competitive as possible. And when we talk about collections or XP and using boosts and all that, like everyone's like, yeah, you just want to like score as many points as possible, but we don't really think of it enough as like you actually want to score more points than everybody else. And if you have the same cards, you have to have cards that have more bonus than them. And so we always think of like, you know, if you miss a podium by half a point and you're like, man, if I had just had collection bonus, or if you get the podium and you're like, oh, the guy behind me had the same lineup, but my collection bonus is higher. And it's everything about having more points. And I'm actually doing a show on Tuesday with a guy on Sorare's Lounge Trader. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce it, but I was talking to him a bunch, and he's really into collections also. And he was saying that everybody always like focuses on like, how much could I have won if I had just gotten a collection, or this is what I won because I have a collection. He's like, nobody thinks of it when you avoid relegation by a point. And you're just like, oh shit, the 4%, 5% that I have in this collection, 3 cards in this lineup, like that helps me. And everything, like I'm almost fully focused right now on finding ways to make sure that when my guys score well, they score as many points as like can possibly be scored. So it's like getting them the level at the highest level they can in terms of XP, getting them their collection as high as I can. And so the Strasbourg thing, like I played 3 of them together this week. 3, 2, however many. But like I played them because they all have really good match. Like they have a really good matchup this week. They're playing home against Auxerre. I don't have a ton of cards. So it's like, those are the best cards I have go into that lineup, but I'm not really like building collections in order to stack. It just happened like this weekend, that collection had a really good matchup. So I'd like to get as many of those guys in, but just like the more I play this game, the more it feels like you have to figure out a way to get as many points out of your cards as possible. And we always like, it's been years that, you know, Nep and I did a show, what was that, year or 2 about microtransactions, and people were like, oh, would you pay for more XP? And everyone's like, yeah, I would pay like a little bit. And it's like, you can literally do that by building a collection. Like you buy any card, and all of a sudden it's like, you know, if you have one card, you want it, you bought it, whatever. And it's like, oh, there's a rookie card. You buy that rookie card, you just bought 1%. And we still aren't like thinking of it enough that there are going to be more and more people who play this game, more cards that are out there, and you want to be able to have better scoring cards than other people. And so at some point, we're all going to have good cards, and you got to make sure that your good cards are better than everybody else's good cards. Like they're the same player, but just yours are more powerful.
Yeah, it's what I said to you earlier on Discord, right? About like, I really want to buy some Rangers and Celtic players to boost that score, but because they're not minting these cards anymore at the moment maybe they are now again, they're just so expensive, and the secondary market is so expensive because of it. But I was doing my lineups on stream today, and I started doing my training lineups, and I put Rodri in there, and some guys are like, why are you putting him in there? I'm like, because I want really high XP on him. So yeah, but he's injured until like the end of the season. I'm like, maybe he comes back at the end of the season, gets 3, 4, 5 games. That's what he says he wants to. Maybe he only comes back next season, but I guarantee you, when the start of next season comes and he's a classic card, and I put him into an in-season lineup as a classic card, and I've got 15% on him, nobody else will have, because I've played the game. I've built his XP up. I've put him in training lineups. I've made sure I keep the amount of people like, oh, that's really good because I don't even use my training lineups. I'm like, how? Like, it's like what you say, Led. Like, if you miss out on like staying in Division 1 by 1 or 2 points, or missing out on a podium or a much, significantly better reward by a very small amount of points, and you didn't do everything you could within your own reason to boost your points, why are you even playing the game? Like, you might as well not bother playing, because you're never going to win.
I just think that there are a lot of people who don't. I think it's hard to really visualize the value of buying cards that like you would never play. Like the number of cards that I have bought in the last 2 weeks of if you asked me if I own this guy and I bought him 3 days ago, and I would probably say, no, I've never heard of him. And it's like, oh, he's a rookie from Strasbourg, 17, like whatever. Like, but that's like, I think I said it today that if I'm going to spend $300 to try to win $2,000, me spending $312, whatever it is, like spending the extra $50 to like have a more legitimate chance to like win 2,000, like that little difference is not going to like make or break it to me. I'm not going to be like, man, if only I'd not spent that $30, like it's just not there. And so, but I realize that like not everyone's budget can do that, but like I'm at a point in the game where like I can do that. And so that's what I'm going to do. Like finding other players who can score well sometimes and me buying them and having 2% bonus. Like it's just not, I just don't think like for my gallery, that's not going to make me win as much.
What you kind of described there is how I kind of feel about my gallery overall, like coming into this year, especially is like, you know, I've already spent X, what's another wee bit just to make sure it's viable and make sure if it is going to hit, it hits, you know, and it's not just, I had that forward that gets 62 points and you finish 5th and it's like, fuck's sake, why didn't I get a real forward, you know, a guy that can actually lift me. So I've kind of had, like what you said there, it hits a big bell with me for like just my general feeling on the gallery and everything else in that sense. Because like, yeah, like I know you're talking about people in different positions as well, like able to do this or that. Everyone's budget's totally different as well. In some regard, like I do a lot of like gallery review stuff and all the rest of it. And some people come in like literally with like pennies and stuff like that, and are up for grinding and, you know, farming and looking for cheap buys when they come. Some people come in and splat. But some people come in. Oh yeah, there's that as well, of course. But some people come in and like buy a strategy. You know, they come in, they get 3 goalkeepers, they go and get a collection here, some bit parts there, and like when you're talking about like getting every point out of something, that's the kind of connection I've got here. Is I've kind of looked at collection bonus and XP and stuff like that. Is kind of making sure I get my money's worth out of everything I've already got for like guys that are like, you know, the prices I bought them for are archived at this point. You know, you can't even see it on site for some of them. You know, so yeah, I think because Classic is the way to get in season cards for the longer you play this game. That kind of has to come into your thinking. Like I will get some in seasons from Classic by essence or by winning or whatever. So yeah, that strikes a chord with me. A lot of that. I
have something to explain to you actually, Led, and it lends to what you were saying there, Quinny, about like getting in season cards from Classic. First and foremost, like we have to presume that Sorare will not disappear in our lifetime, right? Because otherwise, like your strategy would probably massively change if you thought this platform won't be here in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. It's okay to build a reasonably priced Classic team and save your essence over a prolonged period of time to get 1 star, even if that's in 18 months, to get 100% return on investment. Because if you told any investor anywhere on earth that within 18 months, I can guarantee you 100% return on investment, they would literally rip your arm off for it, because that's an insane way to like look at what you spend versus what you get.
Love that.
And so when you was talking, Led, the other, maybe 2 Fridays ago about the cost of waiting, and I tried to say something to you in the chat, and it was lost in translation a little bit. Like, there is no cost of waiting because this is an infinite timepiece. The player that you might miss out on now, there will be another player exactly that scenario in 2 months or 4 months or 6 months or 10 months or 20 months or 50 months. So the only cost of waiting is like your immediate not like that instant current, like, okay, that works for me now. Otherwise, there's no cost of waiting, because if you saved what you would have spent on that player, you might look in hindsight and say, if I didn't wait, I would have won X, Y, or Z. But by waiting, there's going to be proposition A, B, or C that is presented to you where you can then spend those funds. So I don't think, assuming that Sorare lasts forever, that there is a cost of waiting.
Yeah, I guess I looked at it. Well, maybe it doesn't matter. I was going to say, like, I think if you're working on a specific strategy that you're trying to accomplish now, waiting hurts you. because but I guess your argument, I feel like your argument falls in the whole I'm not wrong, I'm never wrong because at some point I'll be right.
Yeah,
and we don't know that. We don't know that you'll be right. And so if I feel like I'm right now, I'd like to take advantage of thinking I'm right. And later, I don't know if I'll have, I don't know.
But you also don't know if you'll be right now, right? Because
You're right.
you could buy a piece and they could get an ACL tear. and then, man, if only I'd waited a week, and I would have known. That, and that was kind of my point in that conversation. Is you can't presume to know whatever will come. You just can't.
So here are two examples that you are right on. So I'm looking for a contender forward, because contender forwards are generally awful in season or classic. They're just not that many of them. So I have a lot of League MX cards. So I was looking at League MX, and one guy that I was looking at was Harold Preciado, who used to be at Santos.
Obviously,
Santos Laguna. I'm sure you have. And he's been suspended recently for a failed drug test. And they were testing his backup sample. And there was word coming out that his backup sample was going to be clean. And so he was going to be free to play. And then he was going to transfer to somewhere, Colombia, some covered league. And so I sent out a couple offers on Harold Preciado. And while I'm doing this, I also am sending out offers on Usama Idrisi, who is at Pachuca.
I have his rare as well for the final collection. Thank you very much.
So I literally have a screenshot of this. So two things come out today. One, Preciado failed the backup sample, so he's still suspended. And two, Idrisi's going to Saudi.
Oh, is he?
And so I literally had open, I have a video of it, 2 open offers out trying to get those cards, and it's just me canceling both of them. But my biggest fault in Sorare is when I think of a plan, I'm like, I have to do this immediately, because I'm so scared that someone else is going to be like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should. And they're going to beat me to it. And then I won't be able to do it. And I'll have to keep waiting. I don't, it's something about it. I always have to do it right away. And so there was I could have had both of those cards yesterday. And then that news come out today that they're both dead.
And so what would have been the cost of waiting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been significant.
The waiting saved me.
Yeah. That was you have 2 pre-shot of res. We back? No.
Oh, Andy said he didn't fail it, but he also didn't pass.
Oh, is that right?
No, a pass is what we want, isn't it? So, anything else besides? I think
sorry to interject there, Quinny. At what point, when you're playing for fucking these teams in Mexico and shit, who cares if you're on drugs? You're playing in the League MX. Do you know what I mean? Who gives a shit, right? Let the man play.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because he's not as if he's a burgeoning team. He's not like Yusuf Makoko, you know.
He's 30 years old. The man's at the end. No wonder why he's taking drugs. He's fucking played in Mexico for the last 7 years. You know, give him a break.
I'm pretty sure they weren't performance enhancing drugs.
There you go.
Even so more cases let him play. Yeah. In fact, it'd probably be better if he stopped the drugs. Let the guy play. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, Hector Herrera just signed for a Mexican team, didn't he?
Pachuca, I think.
Yeah, he's gonna smash there. Canales is a weird one for me. I bought him when he moved because I had this theory back then, which stands true to now as well, but doesn't work with the new in-season classic format. That any player that was a consistent active player in Champion Europe that ever moved to MLS or Mexico or Ecuador or something, they would just rip. And so I bought Canales rare when he moved to Mexico. And I thought, this guy's just going to be ridiculously good. And he was. And so I was like, nice. I yielded a little bit off of him. But then I sold him when the kind of classic in-season split happened. And now I look back and think, man, wouldn't he be a really great like in-season piece to have as captain, like as a classic Garden captain? And I regret selling him now, but I moved him on, unfortunately.
I like those moves. I buy a lot of them, especially for contender in general. I already had Quattras lying around, but when I seen Shaqiri was moving, like I totally agree with that principle. You know, like I love seeing that kind of stuff happen. Like guys that are like good operators. Like you were bad mouthing Choupo-Moting earlier on, and I'd never defend the man, right? But I think like what Choupo-Moting is, there may be some money laundering involved. I think that's probably in the picture somewhere. But I've always thought this guy must be like the best guy to have at training. Like in the world, like everyone loves him. They keep giving him new deals.
Out,
yeah, great at the sessions. Doesn't mess up practice. Helps everyone else do well. And MLS goalkeepers is just scream out training goalkeeper to me. Like in terms of like who would be in goals at the training ground, just day in day out lying around for Bayern Munich or PSG or whatever. So I've just got this feeling that Choupo-Moting it's just going to be like training for him in that way, where it's obviously standard of players a bit different or whatever, but that same principle of like guys that like being the best trainer or one of the best trainers at PSG and Bayern surely means he can score 15 goals in MLS.
Yeah,
I'd hope. You know,
like Benteke, like ripped him.
Benteke, exactly.
He did and he didn't, because he scored about 15 of his 25 goals in about 3 games.
Yeah,
and it's like, man. 100 and 150 points on Sorare are the same, right? Like, spread these out, motherfucker. Like, I need some points.
Very true. Baranchik was a great example of that Canales kind of thing as well. Like, he's went to Atlanta and been ripping, hasn't he? Baranchik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, has he got a brother that also plays professional? Yeah.
I bought his brother on a power hour way back when.
Is that right?
The wrong Baranchik. Yeah, I totally guffed it. I also bought Zaniolo that night as well, I think, and that was like in between injuries, so I had that still to come in my future at that point in time, which was great.
Okay. I got offered Zaniolo and Kolasinac in season in a trade for a card that I with cash that I sold, and I thought I'll just sell them straight away, and I didn't because very lazy, and I used Kolasinac in a lineup a couple of weeks ago when he ripped like 93 points, and I was like, nice, like he was my captain. That. He helped me get back to Division 1, won me a cash prize. I'm like, if I'd have sold him, I would have got less than what I've now won thanks to keeping him. And Led, you've mentioned a few times on shows over the last couple of weeks that Sorare Data don't do a good enough job of showing like the yield of players. And I read between the lines and assume that you're saying that because Sorare Data are about to show us a good enough job of showing the yield, and I can't wait for that to happen because I really want to see the nuance of like what players have actually done for me. But it does go deeper than like just a player earning you points and earning you cash, because if you win a division, which I think you did recently, Led, right? Like you won some division, like how much acquisition do you give? And I saw your show that you were supposed to do a few weeks ago when your internet went bad. Like you just give a fifth of everything to everyone. I don't. I prefer to give like the percentage to everyone. But how much acquisition do you give to the guys that you bought for collection score? How much acquisition do you give to the guys that you put in training that boosted another guy that's now in a lineup that earned you points? Like, how do you quantify that value from players? It's really hard to explain to people. Like, this guy never plays for me, but he's so important because he goes in here and this is valuable.
Like, I think one of the, like, it's the absolute toughest thing on Sorare is like figuring out like yield on a per card basis. Because even like this guy won this card and that card won all this stuff. And it's like,
and
does
those
the first
cards
card
won?
Yeah. And the benefit of in season obviously is like, exactly how much you spent and you can see exactly how much you won in like cash. And that's why when I went through kind of like my contender and champ stuff, like the doing it on a per card basis really doesn't make sense. Like all of these Strasbourg cards I'm buying, like and I said it for the contender one for the Racing cards. Like, I know there are cards that I have bought that I will never yield from. Like, I am confident they will there were some that will never even be in a lineup, let alone yield from it. And so, like, how much should you put into how much a specific card has yielded? Because when I go back and say, like, oh, how much has this Andre Santos card won me? Well, it won me that because of these 17 other cards I have making him more powerful. And so, like, do I just add all of them up and say that's the cost of Andre Santos? And so it's just really hard to do it.
But I really like the way you did it with bar graph, right? That was fascinating because I was like, yeah, that is what I'd like to see more of. Like, okay, this whole group rather than an individual or a team or a stack shows me what I've won with this group. Because when Sorare gave the year in review stuff, I was like a little bit like, oh shit, I'm gonna see how much I fucking lost. I was perplexed by the amount of cash I'd won. I was like, there's no way I've won that much cash. It was like almost $20,000. I was like, I only spent $6,000 for the in-season stuff, and everything else I've yielded from what I've got. Now, of course, I spent stuff prior.
Yeah, you're like, where did all that money go?
But like you, I'm like, that stuff that I spent prior doesn't count now. The stuff that I spent, because they're like, that was the old Sorare. That is like, fucking bury that shit. Even though I'm still yielding off of those cards. Like, but I was like, damn, that was mind-blowing to me. And I would like to be able to see that in like maybe some of that is kind of like attributed to classic cards, or even like podiums in classic, or special weeklies that give cash. But it would be like, I know how much I spent this season in season from money outside of Sorare, and it was about £7,000. So the fact that I won almost $20,000 this year, I'm like, shit, like I might actually be in profit from like this year, but I don't know where it's come from, because it's just not. It's just not information that's like available.
Yeah, I think we can do a better job of it. But I think it's like the biggest. Still I think it's one of the biggest things that like affects just people's opinions on Sorare. That it's really difficult to see how much you've won, because if you're not somebody who wins cash and like withdraws it immediately and you kind of like put it back in, all you see is like your card values. It's the easiest thing to see, but it's also probably like the least indicative of your success.
And on that note, when I look at my gallery evaluation now, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's bad. But then when I look at my SO5 stats and the gaming yield in terms of like cash, I'm like, that's nice. Like, they don't know how much money I've got in my wallet. They don't know how much money I've withdrawn. Like, Sorare doesn't account for that. Like, and so it's like, actually, it's not as bad as it looks. And it's in terms of like trying to change people from like, so today when I was streaming, I did my lineups on stream, and I have a lot of people just ask me like, this looks like a scam. I'm like, yeah, but it's not, like, because you can spend like a couple £100, even if you don't win this week, you can play them next week, and you can play them next week. And even if you don't make that couple £100 back, you might make £40 or £50 back and maybe some essence. Then you grind that essence into like you get a card that could be worth nothing or could be worth something. And then in the future, it could be worth more. And I'm like, and then next season, like, you can still use these cards in season just as classic cards, or you can use them in classic and still yield. And they're like, nah, that sounds like a scam. And I'm like, look at my gallery. And I'm like, actually, don't look at my gallery. Let me tell you about how much money I won, though. Like, and it's like I put a post out a couple of weeks ago about the Champions League win that I got when I finished first place, and how much those cards cost me, and how much they won me. And the amount of negative interaction I got from that, it was bad, man. But people were like, oh yeah, but what about like the collection pieces that like helped you win that? And I'm like, well, like, actually, when it comes to it, I didn't need the collection pieces to win. I still would have won without them. But even so, it's like, I try to explain to people, okay, if I'm to also utilize those in how they help me win, I also have to account for what else they've won. And I'm like, I don't want to put a Twitter post out that's like 20,000 words long to explain that these 5 cards won me. Like, that's not what it's about. We're trying, like, surely everyone wants more people on Sorare. Like, it would be better for everyone long term. But it's so hard to like explain to people right now. It's really good to buy Sorare because you can win over time, like rather than in the moment. But you can't show people that you can win over time. And it's not Sorare data, in my opinion, that does a bad job of that. I think it's Sorare that does a bad job of showing people that you can win things over time with these cards. They are pieces that you can use in tournaments for a prolonged period of time for their whole careers, and you can still yield from them. And the most fascinating thing for me is like the amount of people that are like, oh yeah, I put like 30 quid on like Celtic to score 3 more or more goals, Rangers to score 3 or more goals, Arsenal to score 3 or more goals. Oh man, like if Arsenal would only just scored a 4th up against Brentford, I would have won like 3 grand. How much did you put on a bet? Like 50 quid. I'm like, yeah, if you put 50 quid on Sorare, guess what you could do with that team? Next week you could play again. Next week you could play again. Next week you can play again. You can just continually play it. Like, you don't lose. Yet when people hear that, they think that's a scam. Yet they go to the bookies that go out of their way to get an edge against you. That's not a scam. But so it is, and it's slowly leaving. My bad. My chair's rolling backwards. And I need a way. I think Sorare need people to need a way to show how you can yield over time rather than in the moment. I think that would do so much better for the platform than being like, oh, hey, if you score 700 points this week, you might get like a trip to Saudi Arabia to like watch Cristiano Ronaldo play football. Cool. Nobody gives a shit. How much can my player make me now? Or how much in a year, if I invest £100 now, in a year's time, what's it worth?
It's kind of hard showing like that kind of elongated, like the classic stuff for them now, I think, because like the whole focus is like in season, you know, like $15 million this year, or this weekend it's 100k, or it's this or it's that. And so the main driver is like buying cards and playing the in seasons. I think they'll probably be quite happy to reflect it, you know, maybe at the end of next season and go, oh, those in season cards from early access 2024. You know, maybe they would do it at that point. But I think like the past at the moment, I don't think they want to be bringing that into, you know, like for highlighting and all the rest of it. As much as like the numbers would be quite beefy, you know what I mean? If you're to look at like some of these cards that have been here for a while, like especially if you don't need to disclose, or maybe even if you did disclose like the buy price, because some of the prizes people used to win card value wise, it would chart, you know, win a card and sell it, or even just raw ETH and then ETH appreciation and all the rest of it. They could definitely put some tasty numbers around if they wanted to, but they've always had the ability to do that, and they've always kind of shirked away from it. Like I think it was you, Laird, but somebody was talking about avoiding the NFT crowd for the most part, with not pumping like the Highland Unique and everything. So it's a funny one. I do think, but they will want to, like, I think the classic cards, like somebody said it earlier, I think it was you. It was Nep talking about like imagining Sorare is here for like the rest of your life kind of thing. And that's kind of the way I've always tried to think about it, in the sense of like the classic cards are like, I'll be playing with them as long as they're kicking a ball, you know. So that's why I've always been quite particular on, I'll just get the guys I want because I'll have them for ages, and there's no any real rush. If I miss a good game this week, they'll be playing for another 6 seasons of their career. I'm sure they'll get another 70 pointer, you know, along the way at some point. It's not the end of the world. And like, so I think like collections is really the way of showing what you're talking about. And it's kind of hard. As soon as I say that, I want to say like, oh, give this stuff to collections and give that. But I suppose that's not really the point, is it? It's more about like showing people, like if you hang on. So again, it's about hanging on to the cards. The longer you have it, the more rewards, the more benefit, the more happiness there is going around for doing that, you know. So it's a difficult thing to do. I don't think they're up for doing it. And I think the best thing would be like, yeah, like a collection thing. Like if you could see like the Liverpool experience, they did quite well at, but lots of people that went to that Liverpool experience had like all shapes and sizes of galleries. They did it last year. They did it 2 years in a row. I don't know if they kept it to in-season galleries only. They probably didn't, you know, for the most part. They've just been reaching out to top collectors, I guess. So, but then that puts pressure on them doing that for like every well-collected club, you know, like Chelsea, Arsenal,
Quito,
Celtic,
you know, yeah.
Liga de Quito, yeah.
Yeah, it's always hilarious. Like Liga de Quito now have about 7 players left from the collection that I bought last season. The rest of them are just there everywhere. And so many times I'm watching like the SD show and they talk about a player. I'm like, he's from my Liga Taquito collection. I'm like, let's go. Like they've moved somewhere, you know, like Oscar Zambrano, he plays for Hull now. Well, I say plays for Hull. He's at Hull now, you know, like you know,
getting paid.
Yeah, he's getting paid. And like so many cards have like moved around and it's fascinating. But it's what you were talking about there with like I lost my train of thought, but
have them for ages and stuff.
Yeah, having cards. Yeah, collections in general. LED, the show that you was on with LED. You guys were talking about adding, like, how do you like grow these cards beyond a certain point? Because eventually everyone will have every card, top stars, high level cards on 15%. What's the differential then? And I had a call with Sorare like some months ago, and it wasn't like or at least I hope they didn't specify that it was like a don't speak about this anywhere else, like they usually do when I can't, and they didn't on this occasion. But they talked about like I presented the idea of why don't we have the tactics in at least classic, and you guys mentioned, you know, spoke on that the other day, or maybe just it was you led by yourself, but I think you was with Black and Quinny. And I really like the idea of tactics, at least in classic. And their kind of rebuttal to me was like, it's so complex and it's so complicated. And I kind of said, like, then why is it your entry level formula to people that are just starting the game at free to play? How confusing would it be to have all these tactics and options at a free to play level, then go into the pay to play model and not have them? And I think that they could expand on tactics greatly, because they've just got very limited options right now. They could expand on tactics greatly to really add differential to how people play this game, that really lets you have your experience and expertise as a fantasy manager allow you to be the difference maker when everybody's got the same options. And you said, Laird, like, you know, they don't need it now. And I actually probably agree. They don't really need it now. But I really hope it's something that they will add into the game cycle within the next 3 to 5 years, where it's like, okay, there's like 5,000 Vinicius Juniors on the platforms. How do we separate one from the next? I really hope they add tactics into it.
I like the thought of all that as well. I've just got wee visions in my mind right now of some guy that becomes the next senior or whatever because he gets, you know, 15 clearances a game, and you just play him and go park the bus, and he's worth 100, basically 100 points guaranteed if he's 60 plus that 40 or whatever, you know. And it's like, oh, you got to be playing blah 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 because he just does so many park the buses, you know. It's a one-man bus.
Ralph Simsier gets like 5 contests won a game. Like the Danish Superliga Opta guy just sees him barely dribble past somebody, and he's like, yep, one more. Yep. Like he'll max out the tactics like by himself every game, without a doubt.
But then they just need to like develop the tactics to a point where you like they almost need. I don't want to ever give kind of UC any credit because I think the platform was diabolical. But one of the things I love about UC was they didn't have an upper limit. Like if a player just scored 500 points, they just scored 500 points. Fuck everyone else. And you could at least allow that with tactics. You know what I mean? Where it's like you just progressively keep scoring bonus points if these thresholds keep getting met, and they just get progressively harder. You know, the first one is 3 tackles. The second one is 5 tackles. The third one is 7 tackles. You got one at 10, 15, and 20 tackles. When have we ever seen someone get 20 tackles? Never. But imagine if that's the game where somebody gets 20 tackles in a game, and so they score 300 points. That's it. That's your differential. You had that player, you put that tactic on, you won that division, because 958 of you had Gabriel Magalhaes in at centre back, but one of you put the tackle tactic on, and that's it. That's your difference. Like, I'm all about that. I think it would be brilliant for the platform, and again, maybe long term, because in spite of how much I've lost on this site and how much my gallery is devalued, I can't stress it enough to people, like how much I think Sorare is in a really, really competent spot right now, like the best place it's ever been. And sure, the entry fee is lower, the prize pool is lower, like the jackpot win is lower. But in terms of actually just a product that you want to engage with as like an entertainment product, it's in such a good place, isn't it? It's so much fun to play. Like, you might not be able to change your life anymore like you could before, but it's fun to play.
And I agree. I think limiteds have done a big part of that. So I think, like, for this game to be like the most fun, like, yeah, you do need like some cards to be expensive and all the rest of it, but you need a lot of them to be attainable, you know, so people can go like, oh well, my fantasy team, I don't need Yamal, but I'll go and get so and so instead, and that'll make the difference because I'll pair him with this guy. And yeah, like, I think it's in a really good spot in a lot of ways, even though like, that kind of like, yeah, some of the jackpot stuff has changed or whatever. And I think like it's been tough for them in some ways as well. We're at 2025, I suppose. Maybe there's a wee bit of New Year vibes in the chat now, but like they've had to really like lay their plan out and stick to their guns for like quite an extended period of time to like move out of the old way and move into the new way. What's the best new way to kind of put together? And even throughout this season, because like there's been so many intervals, and it's a shame we've not got McBride with us anymore, because I'm sure he will remember every one of them. But there's been a few like controversies across the season with like missing different bits and bobs, and then like the next day they'll do a promo, pure brash, not caring about what people are saying, like 3 boxes tomorrow for anyone that spends money or whatever it is they want to do. And they're just sticking true to they're like, listen, well, tomorrow we're tweeting, it's already scheduled, we're sticking to the plan. At the end of the month we're doing this, next month we'll do that, and as long as we get there, they'll see the picture and they'll be happy. And it's I don't think we've got through a development and it's not been well received now at this stage.
Yeah, you spoke the other day on M-Pen did some like math many months ago on whether or not Sorare profitable, and I think he spoke then on the fact that they are, like, the trajectory is like really positive. I don't know if he included like the possibility of like staff and like licensing costs and things like that. I wonder how that would differ now after these market opportunities that see limited prices like, literally go off the charts before they drop back down, because the more they do of that, like people just love fun stuff, man. And like, if you've got the opportunity to overspend significantly but have a 3% chance of getting like an extra player, you're going to do it. You could have bought 7 players with that same amount of money that you overspent on the one player, but when you win that one player and you brag to your friends about it, it's going to feel good. And nobody accounted for that when they did their projections. Or when I say nobody, I literally mean M-Pen, because he's the only person.
Yeah. 100% of the people.
Yeah. And I wonder why I wonder why Sorare don't do this with Rare or Super Rare or Unique.
There's just not enough of them. Like, it's that simple. Like, to the amount that they can give away for free and limited, because they have so many of them. But like, you can't do a special. You can't sell 60 cards and then do a buy one get 5% chance for another, because they're out. And I don't think there's any benefit to doing it at 40 and then giving away the 20. Like, the early access cards, particularly for Rare, and I assume it works for Super Rare the same way, but like, people are willing to buy those cards. Like, there are not that many of them. The more users that come, fewer people are able to get all of these cards. And with limited being at 1,000, like, they can do whatever they want. And I mean, I own literally hundreds of limited cards that in August, if you were like, you're going to own all these cards, I'd be like, why would I ever buy those cards? And Sorare's like, hey, maybe you'll get a special edition. And I'm like, give me 50 of them. Bring them on. It's Christmas, whatever. And like, I would never buy these things. And there's no reason for us to think they will stop doing this.
Yeah.
Like, the only time that they will stop giving away cards is when there are enough people to just buy them all. And then we're just flooded with people anyway.
It's interesting, that whole like mentality of like buying 50 of them. Like, I've got quite a few people on my Discord that had low budget galleries that now didn't sell up, but they just don't play anymore, and they'd use NCE instead. And it's like, it makes sense because you can build whatever team you want in whatever division you want for free. You can win the same prize that any whale wins for free, and like there's no risk there. But these are also the same people, the exact same people that when they do these market ops will go and buy 300 tier 5s on the chance that they get 1 star. And it's like, you might think you're winning from these NCE lineups, but you've just gone and spent £450 on cards. You haven't even got a clue the name is spelt, just in the chance that you win a tier 1 or a star, right? Like, and this, it lends really heavily into how Sorare have like finally started tapping into the EA marketing system of just give people shiny shit and they'll pay for it. They'll just buy anything. They don't care, man. Like, as long as they feel like they're winning, they're winning. And it's good to see that from Sorare because it will separate the kind of like quote unquote men from the boys, but it will also enable Sorare to be sustainable long term with huge prizes, because people will pay, as I said before, like 7, 8, 9x for a player because they might win a card that's really expensive.
Yeah. I have to go, but there's one thing I wanted to bring up before. So it's like 5 things that I'll bring into one. Quinny, Mandanda has scored 0 today.
Yay.
Error led to goal, and he allowed 3 goals.
Yay.
Gaetan Laborde scored against Mandanda.
Nice.
Laborde is in my 2021-22, whatever year it is, Ren collection. So a little quick trivia for you guys. There's 29 players in that collection. How many still play for Ren?
3.
Wow. Nailed it right away.
Oh, well, there you go then.
Didn't even let Quinny try. Can you name the 3?
Sorry. No.
Quinny?
Bard.
No,
Truffier.
Nice now, yeah.
That's one.
Truffier.
Bard's not in the collection anyway. He was always Nice.
Kuli Muendo, whatever his name is.
Not in the...
No.
One guy played in the Prem last year. And I'll give the other one was Alan Dar, who's been out all season anyway.
Oh, yeah.
He would have left anyway, but he tore his ACL. Lorenz Assignon.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's it.
Of course, yeah. How did you not remember, Quinny?
Of course.
That's it. Anyway, gents, pleasure was all mine, even though it wasn't on my channel. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. You too, man. Happy New Year.
Right back at you.
Yeah, then there was 2 in Ep.
On that note, good luck. Courtois got an error led to goal, but still has 30 points. Which I don't know if is a good thing, because it's like, damn, he could still end up with like 40 or 50 points even with an error led to goal, or is a bad thing because it's like if he didn't commit the error that led to goal, they wouldn't have conceded. He would have had a clean sheet, and in the same score, he probably gets 100 points. Like, what a fucking idiot, you know? Like,
might get changed. Error led to goals a volatile decisive, isn't it?
It's one of those ones though where I feel like once they're assigned to someone, they're just not unassigned. Like there was an error led to goal for someone a couple of weeks ago. Can't remember who it was for, but the defender gave a horrific pass that then resulted in the goalkeeper not being able to save it, and the goalkeeper got an error led to goal. And I was like, there's no way that stands for the goalkeeper. That's got to go to the defender. And it just never did. Even like, who was it last week where I had it in my own lineup and the defender got an error led to goal because they stuck a leg out for a cross that they didn't get, and it got assigned as an error led to goal. And I'm like, it's not an error. They didn't touch the ball. Like, it's impossible that you can assign an error for that. And it stood. Oh, it was the Man City defender. Was it a Kanji? I think it was a Kanji. Yeah. Maybe not a Kanji, but let me go to the Man City game here.
He made the first save and it just fell into the striker's path, 6-yard box.
Yeah, how's that an error? It's just not, is it? Because there has to be a point in time where like logic has to be implemented. Otherwise, every goal that a goalkeeper concedes is an error because they could have saved it if they were just in the right place, right? Yeah. So at what point do you just like, okay, an error has to be something that is genuinely dumb, not something where it's like, oh, the goalkeeper saved it, it got parried out to the defender, they got an error led to goal. Yeah, so proper gaff. So Akanji got an error led to goal for the goal that Everton scored against Manchester City, because as the cross came in, he stuck his leg out to try and block it, missed the ball completely. It fell to the striker, went in, he got the error led to goal. I was like, there's no way that stands. And it stood. And it cost me a Division 1 Classic champion lineup.
That's harsh.
Really harsh. I tweeted, I was like, Opta, I was like, surely this isn't an error led to goal for Akanji. They don't give a shit. Like, they're Opta. They don't think, oh, you must be playing fantasy sports. Like, this is really important to you. They're like, whatever. It's an error. Who cares?
Yeah. That guy's finished his shift.
Yeah.
They're not calling him back in for overtime. Correct his work. Aye. Some good action in the chat tonight, guys. Sorry, I haven't been able to keep on top of it, but a lot of great suggestions people were adding in on top of some of the chat we were having. Rico Man said Ache and Paulinho are going to be crazy together. I was dubious about Hector Herrera doing well in Mexico. You seem quite confident. And I don't know what Paulinho he plays with, because I thought Paulinho was in Brazil, the Leverkusen one, at least.
I think that's the Paulinho, if I believe correctly, that was a ex-Barcelona Paulinho that went to China and is now
really?
That's
fun.
To Mexican League. I don't know if he has any cards. He might have. I don't know if Sorare was active during the time he was back in Spanish League. I might be wrong. It might be the ex-Leverkusen guy that was like a forward at not Sao Paulo, who's Hulk played for.
Did Paulinho maybe get a Barca card?
He might have done, because he came back
Barca collection
quite recently. That Paulinho, like when I say recently, like 2021, 2022, before he went to China. But the reason why I think Hector Herrera will do well in Mexico is because doing well at Houston in that heat, like, it's going to be like a breath of fresh air for him. He's going to feel like he's playing on drugs in like not having like that insane heat and those crazy altitudes to like deal with like a person. He's just going to be able to focus on his football. And how many people have you seen take corners with their right foot and their left foot? Like, the guy's just a freak, isn't he? Like, he's just going to be. I just think he's going to be like a class above everybody else. Not necessarily in like decisive actions, but just in his general play. He's just real good. I recall watching him quite a lot at Houston, and whenever they were winning in the last sort of 20, 30 minutes of a game, they would sub off their striker because, let's face it, their strikers were woeful.
Crap.
He would play up front. Even though he was clearly gassed, he would be the guy that was leading the line. And I'm like, I'd look at him and be like, he can't even run from the halfway line to the box. Yet, because of the way that their like, their temperature was and stuff, no one could run from the halfway line to the box. So it was like, I was like looking at him as a striker thinking, damn, he actually puts a shift in here at forward. And he most of his decisives, if they weren't from set pieces, came from open play in the last 20 or 30 minutes of the game when the striker had been subbed off. I can't remember what his name was, but he moved anyway, and he was awful there as well. I think he went to like Minnesota or something, and he was just terrible there. And I look at Hector Herrera, and he's another one of the kind of like class of like, listen, he did it for Atletico Madrid in La Liga. This guy will, until he decides to retire, he's going to be fine unless he goes back to like champion Europe, like no matter where he could go to like a Benfica or something like that and he'd still kill it, like, because he's just a quality football player.
Yeah, no, I agree. I found Paulinho. He maybe has Corinthian cards.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
But it says no club, so I'm not sure if it's him. And then I put in Paulinho. What club is it they're at? Is it Toluca? Because there was one at Toluca. But I don't know if it's...
Oh, yeah, that is Toluca is where he went.
Is it Toluca?
Yeah.
So it's the Lisbon guy. Rico Man, that makes sense. I should have worked that one out, maybe. But okay. Rico Man loves a Lisbon collection.
See, now look at him already at Toluca, scoring like that. You got, like, see, this for me looks like an opportunity of, you get Paulinho, you get Hector Herrera, you get them both on 5%, you play one in-season lineup, one in another in-season lineup, you captain them both, and you're yielding.
You're printing. Yeah.
That Paulinho, I'm surprised he actually went to Liga MX. He was a solid player.
Yeah. His scores at Sporting weren't they too shabby either. It's not as if it was too long ago.
That's what I mean. I remember him scoring like Champions League goals and like Europa League goals and stuff. Like he was a quality player.
Yeah, one each for Atalanta, just March last year. That's a funny one.
Yeah, surprising. You're not surprised, are you, when they go to like Saudi or Qatar or something, or even the MLS? When they go to like Liga MX, like one thing that was interesting to me, what was his name? The American striker that used to play in the MLS that went to Liga MX.
Vasquez.
Yeah, Brandon Vasquez. Now he's called Vasquez, so maybe he's got like some heritage in Mexico. But I was blown away that he went from MLS where he was killing it to the Liga MX where he can't get a start. And somebody's like, "Oh, it's for the money." I'm like, "Wait, there's more money in Mexico than there is in America?" I don't understand how. Like,
that's the way I've always understood Liga MX, is that level in money it is ahead of MLS, which makes no sense. But like Giacomakis left Atalanta for Cruz Azul for more money. And he said, I don't know if you've seen this, but his comments were quite scathing when he left. He said, like, he played a few games for them and he was like, "Oh, I love playing football matches when it matters if you lose again," you know.
Yeah.
He was pure vibing on that, like the heat of it and the, you know, like the fans, like, losing, you know, blow up your car or something, you know, whatever they do down there. So I don't know. The money part surprised me, but it's maybe because it's like there are all actually football fans in Mexico. So like they sell their stadiums out and people buy shirts and stuff like that. But I find it still, right, even like the now, I find it surprising because Messi's there, the Apple deal, and you know MLS is, but their wage structure is quite constrained, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they have like all those through 3 DP slots, and it's a bit weird. Yeah. This
was in our top comment that came through. Anderson Talisca is a FIFA all-timer for me, personally. I'm sure, you're nodding. You definitely agree. He's getting cards. He's on his way back to Fenerbahce, it feels like. Oscar, I don't think he's going to get cards. Has he not joined Sao Paulo?
Sao Paulo. So I understand Sao Paulo aren't minted.
Yeah.
Because if they were, like, Lucas would be an absolute immediate purchase. Like, again, another player that's like in Sorare regards. I don't know why he went to Brazilian league, but he, like, when he plays, he scores really, really well. And in general, Sao Paulo are like very, very strong again now.
Yeah. Their goalkeeper's got cards, but it's one of those limit issue ones where it was like he's got like 10 rares or something.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the best goalkeepers on the platform actually as well, isn't he? Yeah. It's really good. Yeah.
Just the way I see, it's Sao Paulo, the Oscars. I had to double check that because I thought I was losing my marbles. But unless somebody knows something we don't know, Graham. The Talisca will be a fun card,
isn't it? It's mad with someone like Oscar. I feel like this with a lot of the Brazilians or a lot of the players that go to the Portuguese league, because we've seen that, like, even Dimitri Payet has gone there and stuff. Like, the Brazilian league is like notorious for defensive qualities, and even now you've got like David Luiz and Thiago Silva playing in the Brazilian league, like still at like 36, 37 years old. And I think about someone like Oscar, and I'm like, at 33 years old. First of all, like, you went to China, you got the bag, and you've been very open about that. I respect that greatly. But second of all, it's like when you see someone like Hulk dropping the kind of records that he does in a Brazilian league, surely Oscar is going to be like way too good for everybody there. Like, he was like one of the best players at Chelsea for like 2 years. You know, it's not like he's some bum that's moved around Europe a bit, couldn't find his place and went somewhere else. He was an incredible player that went to China because he got offered an insane amount of money, delivered massively in China, and has now gone to Brazil. Like, if they ever release an Oscar card, I think it would be like his scores in China. I think he'd be hitting like 100 points a game.
I don't think it's much of a nerf going to Brazil. I make you quite right on that. The only thing is maybe if he gets a bit of special treatment in a few matches where they maybe just kick the crap out of him and gets a random 30 once in a while, you know. But against the teams they'll be bossing and all that, like, he's going to take every set piece. He's going to be scoring goals. He's going to be up there for best player in the division and all the rest of it, no doubt for me. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's much of a worse card. If we get it, it'll be a pretty penny, even though it's in Challenger rather than All-Star setting. But again, like you say, like, the loss of All-Star is kind of now being overstated because it's kind of now here all the time for the most part. You know, it's just that there's no cash there. But the beautiful factor of, like, the All-Star essence not, like, polluting your pool, just diluting it. You know, that's maybe a bit of an underserved strategy nowadays. Like you were mentioning that some guys are killing it there, and maybe it's just something I've overlooked, but it's definitely not as dead as once thought. All-Star in that way doesn't need to be.
Yeah, for me, it's become a afterthought. It's like once I filled in my challenger, contender, and then the main league teams, whatever I've got left, I'll just put into All-Star. But I do think there's like good value in like one of the things that I wanted to do for next season that maybe we should have a different show about, to talk about like when to sell, when to buy, when to hold, like for buying 2025, 2026 cards. But one of the things that I really wanted to focus on was like having insane Premier League lineups, but also having enough leftovers so that I could attack All-Star and special weeklies to the point where I'm like, I'm just pulling in at a really high level of essence that is only geared towards Premier League, and using players like, for example, like Hall from Newcastle. You know, he doesn't always score well, but when he does, it's like 100 points. So he'd be the sort of guy that'd be like, yeah, throw him in All-Star, because on those weeks that he pops and these other guys pops, I'll get maybe 5 or 10 essence that will just be Premier League essence. And it's like, how quickly can you achieve a tier 3 then at the start of the season with all these like special weeklies by buying players that aren't the £1,000 stars, but instead the sort of like 80, 90 pounds tier 1, tier 2s that can still deliver you a really good return. And it's about like I genuinely don't know when the best time to start saving is, because I personally think around the 30 game mark in the Premier League is when people will start looking at it going like, okay, it's time to start preparing for next year. But that means there's still 8 game weeks of like £2,500 prize pools where you're like, oh shit, I could buy a really, really good team for like £1,000 and it's a £2,500 prize pool. What really surprised me today when looking to buy some defenders from the Premier League, because I needed an in-season defender to play with the Real Madrid stack that I've got, because I just didn't want to play what I had. There's no in-season cards on the market. And I was like, damn. They've already, like, we're like 78, 79, 80 for some of these cards. There's not a lot left to come. So when it gets to game week 30 and you're like, oh, now's the time to buy, where are you buying from? There's no more to mint. There's no more to reward. They've sold out. And so I actually sit there and think, like, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised or even maybe like shocked at how expensive in-season cards are going to be, right up until the point where you can't get like that 1-for-1 return, where it's like, okay, there's 2 game weeks left. I can't buy Lamine Yamal now because I'd never be able to yield off of him. But with 3 game weeks, it's like, oh, if I won this week and maybe came like podium the next week with Lamine Yamal, maybe I could get it back. He'd still be worth something. And I was like blown away by the few that I was looking at that were still on the market were like 4 or 5 times the normal in-season price, because people knew that it's like, hey, if you want this card, you've got to pay me. Like, and so I like the model from Sorare, but it was surprising to see how expensive they were.
Yeah, I've not really. I've been keeping an eye on like prices in season because I wasn't able to get in on early access. I've been kind of waiting for them to fall and stuff like that, but I've not really noticed that much of a absolute bottleneck like you're talking about there. Feels like a lot of lister play coming into effect because Premier League's on there now, and I'm kind of looking at stuff kind of everywhere else, I suppose. But yeah, no, I think that's a very telling part of it as well. Like when it comes towards like the back end of the season as well, a lot of people kind of suspect that, you know, secondary market might have a wee bit of a day in the sun, and that kind of same kind of light that you're talking about there as well. So it's definitely something that's kind of coming down the pipe, because like you were mentioning about getting SPFL cards. Like there's not been any on auction for a while, and there's not many left. Period. You know, and
that's the problem, right? Like I really want to boost my Celtic and Rangers collections, and like the guys that you've got that literally haven't played for like 3 years are like £13 and stuff. I'm like, no, this guy should be like £2. Like I'm not paying this much money for a guy that is going to do nothing but sit in my club to rot.
We noticed this thing on one of the streams. I can't remember where it was or when it was, but Sinisalo was a tier 2 rare. I'm sure it was tier 2, and the reason for it is, like, I think his last auction was not too chunky, and you know, he's 70 quid. They finally put an instant buy on that. Wasn't there for ages, but his secondary market, somebody had him listed at 150 for like a month. You know, because there was just like no Sinisalos going. Or maybe they've done some auctions recently, but there was.
Is he projected to be a good player or something? Because look, like that's what blows me away. Look, he's not played at all. Yeah, he's like 50 quid. Like you could buy a good tier 1 Premier League defender for 50 quid. Like
it's kind of like it's like the Celtics. I think it's quite a Celtic specific problem because we had Joe Hart with no other backup. So when Joe Hart retires, every Celtic collection has no goalkeeper. So if you have Schmeichel, you need Sinisalo because if Schmeichel does get hurt, like it's only Sinisalo. Yeah. So it's like a mandatory handcuff is probably what's going on there. But yeah, he was in like tier 2 or something. I was like, if I get Sinisalo as a tier 2, I will be spitting feathers. Like, so, no two ways about it. But yeah, so that'll be definitely a bit of an interesting shake-up. And I say the chat was on a bit of fire. I've tried to catch as many good comments from it as I can. Again, some days just kind of filling us in on Toluca here. They're celeb owned. They spent big money on Paulinho to get him out of the Champions League. So that's vibes. Mexico spend money, who'd have thought it?
Yeah, that's the place that all those drug cartels, mate. They're just pumping, just funneling it back into the football.
Yeah, well, I'll finish on this. I've kept enough of your time tonight, Nep, and I'm sure we've all got kids and beds to get to and all the rest of it. But the Millonarios team, that's like, man, that's Pablo Escobar's team, wasn't it? Or I don't know if that's a widely known thing, but I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, Millonarios was like Escobar's team, and it was one of the first things he tried to pump his money into was football, and it's in a TV show or a documentary about him. But so they went for that, and that's why it was like the derby that they've got there. It was like Pablo's team and like whoever else's team. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Brazil schedule is brutal, and I think like Brazil. I was quite surprised that this is the link I was going to make. I was really surprised to learn that the Brazilian league is like the richest league kind of out there, outside of like Europe and Saudi and whatever. Like transfer wages they spend. It seems like they're all fucking out of money, like Barcelona style, But they spend lots of money, they pay lots of wages, and it's a rich league by all accounts, So that's one I've always found funny.
It's interesting.
Yeah, but it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for popping in again, regular appearer. So always love it, mate.
I want to, you know what I mean? I want to like slate on the team sheet now. So when you brought in McBride today, it was like a regular. I was like, I want that.
Yeah, well, next week, mate. I don't think I'm far behind McBride anyway. So loving it.
No, nice one. Well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and eat and punch the kids. I mean, put the kids to bed. Yeah.
Likewise. Good night, everyone. Thanks for everyone that joined us tonight. Take care.